Hey, this is Jesse James with Evansville Harley-Davidson, and this is Alexander the Great. So, we did something very irresponsible yesterday and went and rode motorcycles. I know, weird concept to think of. But it was specifically of the Ultra Limited and the Street Glide Ultra. So, as a lot of you guys know, the Ultra Limited is no longer being made. And we felt like going full dresser to full dresser, let's really feel what the big differences were between them, what our thoughts, and then flip-flop back and forth. What'd you think?
So, on my initial reaction on the Ultra Limited, it's Street Glide Ultra.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Nailed it first time.
Yeah. My first initial thoughts on the Street Glide Ultra was it was an extremely snappy, full-dressed bagger.
Did you have it in sport mode, and that's why it felt snappy?
That's the only mode that I ride in is sport mode. So when when I am riding sport mode on that bike, it really feels a lot more nimble than what I was experiencing on the 24, which I do think is a nice contrast as far as actual rideability, especially in like really tight hairpin maneuvers. I think it handles significantly lighter.
When you ride on a full, like not a full dresser, but you ride on the Revival, like what year is your Revival again?
The 21.
Yeah, so you're very familiar. Like this man arguably does more touring than most people think of doing, just because he gets bored and will just go and ride. Like, how many miles till the oil's warmed up for you?
About 500 miles till we're operating.
So, like, he's spent a lot of time on these touring bikes. Like, for a good stretch of time there, he actually was motorcycle only until some recent events. But that's besides the fact. But yeah, so you were just really snappy with all of it?
Really snappy. What were your kind of initial thoughts?
So I started out on the Ultra Limited and then went over to the Street Glide Ultra. And for the Ultra Limited, it's everything that for me as somebody that touring's not my thing. I got into bikes far more Dyna style, like Lowrider ST. That's one of the bikes that got me into Harleys. And so I've always been around with the Ultra Limited being the full dress setup. So for me, it's still like it's the most comfortable ride, like hands down to me. I think the Ultra Limited is far more comfy than the other bikes of its time in the touring platform. It's like riding an Easy Boy going down the road. So to go from that over to the Street Glide Ultra, I definitely felt like I had lost some of that comfort. Like I definitely was feeling that snappiness that you were talking about on the Street Glide Ultra compared, and I will ride in other modes beyond just sport. But like in any mode except for rain mode. Rain mode was the only one where I felt like it wasn't as snappy, and that by design, right?
Yeah. And that's a really cool thing with the rain modes that we have, because with rain mode, it doesn't even have to be inclement weather to be riding in rain mode. If, let's say, you see something uneasy or interesting traffic situation in front of you that you're not totally sure of, slap it into rain mode, that bike's going to work less aggressively, performance-wise, giving you extra seconds and really just making it a more safe ride overall.
I can definitely agree with that, especially with just like how much attention to detail with the RDRS system, not just the like RDRS, engine braking, everything. It's really set up for those safety or somebody that is newer into the touring segment while they're getting used to that extra weight. And that's actually something that it's easy to forget about. But I've been riding for a fairly good amount of time. And on the Ultra Limited, it's still one of those things of whenever I'm coming up to a stop or something, or slow speed maneuvers, I'm still like riding 1,000-pound bikes on the Ultra Limited. Whereas on the Street Glide Ultra, I had all the confidence that thing was planted underneath me, regardless of how slow we were going.
Absolutely. The nimbility of it is absolutely unheard of.
And I think something that you had pointed out while on the road with it was it's definitely a very different feel of bike. Like you described it more as a Street Glide with a tour pack versus that classic full bagger setup. And personally, I don't think that's a bad thing. Because going from the Rushmore bikes of the 2014 to 2023 model over into the Helix platform that we have now, on just street and road glides, it felt like, okay, we are definitely progressing. This is where we needed to go. But for this setup of these Ultras, it's really a different riding style. I don't think that's a bad thing since that's not the big bread and butter. So we have two very distinct rides for bike, and I think it's a good thing because you can get still that super comfortable going cross country, or the, hey, I don't want to pay for a tour pack later on. I'm always going to have it on, so let me just get it that way.
Well, and I actually really like the Street Glide Ultra lowers. I felt like as far as just wind protection on my legs in general, I felt a significant change with the new design on the lower fairings on the 25 comparatively to the 24. I also think it's a nice feature on the 25s where you have those big pockets in the lowers.
Dude, that's
I think
great.
that's a long time coming.
Well, for me, I don't even feel like it's a long time coming. It's a long time finally getting back to it, because you go back to the Ultra Classics and now it's there. They took it from us, and they gave it back. But yeah, I was speaking of the wind. We went out on a super windy day, and on the Ultra Limited, I was just getting punched all over the road. Street Glide Ultra, though, we were good. We were cruising. Like, I definitely felt the aerodynamic stuff that they were talking about with that redesign. What about you?
Absolutely. I definitely think it's really important for people to go out and ride them like we did, where we went from one to the other immediately. So my memory is fresh. The actual feeling is still in your head, because as far as touring bikes, they are two totally different touring bikes.
Absolutely. And you have a great opportunity to ride both of them here at Evansville Harley-Davidson. Come down, see me, Jesse James, or Alexander the Terrible, and we'll get you riding.
Let's ride, guys.